Okay, so I'm going to start this graph with doing a startup graph with negative cos. Okay, how do you draw just a negative cos graph? What would this shape look like? It's negative. So think about a cos, but make it reflected. How would you draw a reflected cos? Okay, so cos usually starts at the top, so because I reflected it, I started at the bottom. Okay, that's the negative. So we're done the negative part of it. Now I'm going to do the 4. So what do I do to this a value of 4? How does it change this? It is a vertical stretch. So I'm done the a. It just makes the amplitude 4. And now I'm going to do the b. So what do we do with b's? We usually do that kind of thing with a b, right? X values divided by b. On this curve, this would be the end of the cycle right there. This completes the one cycle. So this is normally 2 pi, but I'm going to divide it by 2. So now the x value there is pi. Okay, sometimes you might need to figure out more x values because of transformations. So what would they go by? Every time you have it, you have to split it up in 4 groups. Think about a clock, the 4 corners. So this would be split up into 4. It'd be a quarter pi, a half pi, 3/4 pi, and a full pi, right? Those are the tick marks. Okay, now that's not my final. We have to draw another graph because we have either a C or D. You're going to have to draw another graph now. Okay, final graph. Three is important because that'd be a middle. What's the highest height? Seven would be on the top. And what value would we go to for the lowest? We would be at -1 for a low. So you're going to fluctuate between those heights. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to start with a coordinate on a bottom, middle, top, middle, bottom. Okay, I put arrows on the end of it because it should, unless what? Unless you see something about some kind of domain. Okay, if there's a domain restriction and say just do it from here to here, there's closed dots. Don't go with arrows. Okay, so pay attention on your test. Question. Make an equation. So we're going to go backwards here. So we have a minimum and then we have a maximum. Okay, so I kind of always think about what's in the middle. That's where I kind of start. So there was a 17, there's a -5, so what's in the middle? of that. I need the height that's right in the middle. Did you come up with something? 6? Okay, so in my equation, there we go. I put it in the D, the midline. Now, how much do I have to go above the 6 or below the 6? What's the amplitude? 11 above it, 11 below it. So that is in the A position. Now let's talk about the period of this. So how much have I distanced the x here? From this coordinate to this coordinate, they have gone 10. That is not a complete period. Okay, so this would be a whole period. So if this was 10 apart, the period would be 20. So 2 pi over what b would get me to 20. So what I do is switch the 20 and the b in a cross multiply, and then I just reduced it by 2. Not wrong if you just leave the 2 pi over 20. That's fine too. Okay, now we need the C. So I need a sine starter coordinate. So how does sine curve start? On a midline heading upward. So we could do this coordinate. So I need to figure out what the x coordinate would be there. So this had an x coordinate of 1, and this one had an 11. So what's the x coordinate, x value right here? 6. So I'm going to go x minus 6 because this has moved it right 6. Okay, sine curve has an amplitude of 9 and a middle of -2. What's the range? Okay, so here's what I do. I kind of do this little situation. Because you always have that going on. You have a midline, top, bottom, and an amplitude. So I need you to figure out what to do with the 9 and what to do with the -2. So the -2 would be in the middle, and the amplitude means I need to go above it by 9 and below it by 9. So can you figure out where you're at if you go up 9, down 9? So I went up 9 would be 7, down 9 would be -11. So to write it as a range, you have to go the low to the high. FYI, these are 18 apart, right? Because it's always double the amplitude. Okay, I want you to do a bunch of stuff to this graph. So first of all, let's do our little analyzing. Okay, so it looks like I have 2 on the top. I have a -8 on the bottom. which means the middle is going to be, what's the middle going to be? Halfway in there. -3. Okay, so that means the amplitude is what? 3. -3 to 2 means I've gone up 5. -3 to -8 means I've gone down 5. Okay, so does that help us with a few things? Okay, let's go range. The lowest to the highest was -8 to 2. The domain, well, a sine or cos curve just go on forever in this regards, unless they have something stopping them. The midline, so we took the -3, but we're going to go, it's a height of -3. Amplitude was how much were we stretching up, down? So 5. Okay, so we need to figure out the period. I need you to take some kind of coordinate and move to the next same coordinate. So what do you want to do? Do you want to do like this bottom to this bottom? Top to top, a middle to a middle? What do you, like, you have to pick something. Doesn't matter. You want to try the bottom bottom? Okay, so a little bit of guessing here. I'm going to call this one -1.25 x value. Would that kind of be where you would want to line up? And I would call this one 3.75 x value. So your period is how much space? Be careful here. How much space is between that? Four. No, not quite. It's very close. What was that? 2.5? No. This space? 5. There's 5 spaces in between those. So the period is 5.
You had it?
I had it. Wow.
No calculator. No, look, haven't touched my calculator. It's not even on today.
That one's on top one actually.
Okay.
Yeah, I should have actually. Stop with that.
Y equals, so we're doing a sine equation. We're doing a sine equation. So we're going to go, do you want to do midline first at the end? -3 was at the end. And we vertically stretched by 5 amplitude. Okay, we got to do a little side work. Remember your little formula? 2 pi over the b value of the equation is the period. 2 pi over b equals period. 2 pi over b equals period, right? I have to have that memorized. Okay, so I switched the 5 and the b. And this is a sine coordinate. So you have to figure out some kind of position for a midline heading upward. So would this midline work? No, because it's on a midline on a down path. So this one would work. And where has it moved, left or right? Nothing. Hasn't. So I actually don't need anything there. That's it. Don't need a number in there because I haven't moved it. Okay, so we had a equation that represented somebody going around a Ferris wheel. Visualizing it. You got your Ferris wheel. I make my applied kids do this question. Okay, what's in the middle of the Ferris wheel? What's your height in the middle? Look at that equation. What's your mid height? 21. Plus 21, that's your middle. Now, 18. What's your top height on this Ferris wheel if you have to be 18 above that? 39. What are you at the bottom? How much are you off the ground? 3. Would that make sense? Usually Ferris wheels, you actually climb up a platform usually to get onto the Ferris wheel, right? Okay. Determine the diameter of the Ferris wheel. Do you guys know what diameter means? That's a diameter. So what is the diameter? 36 feet is the diameter. What is the period of this graph? So what do you do with period again? What's that little formula I said to memorize? 2 pi over b equals period. So 2 pi divided by 2.8. Okay, now I'm actually going to touch my calculator today. 2 pi divided by 2.8 is 2.244. That's the period of this graph, which means one cycle of the graph. So what does this mean in real life? Instead of a cycle of a graph, what is it of? It makes the Ferris wheel going around once, so it is a time in minutes to go around once. That's what the period is, and that's what it represents. Okay, one cycle. Because look at this cycle. We're at bottom, mid, top, mid, bottom. Cycle of a graph. All right, last question. I gave you a midline. I gave you a point, a period, determine all those things. I don't know. I'm just a very visual person, so do I have anything here? Can I do any of my little things there? Middle is 8. I had a maximum point at 1, 15. So here's what I want. I just want the 15. I don't care about the 1 part of it. I'm just trying to figure out the height. So what should I put beside this amplitude arrow? How much did that go above it? 7. So how do you go 7 down? 1. Okay. So what can you already fill in here? Midline. I can do plus 8, middle. I can put a 7 on the amplitude A stretch. And the period is pi. So what do you do with the period again? 2 pi over b equals period. So 2 pi over something b is equal to a pi You always switch. So my b value is 2. Does that make sense? It's compressed by 2 because if you normally are 2 pi and now you're just a pi, you've compressed it by 2.